All right. Did you enjoy your Christian chicken or Chick-fil-A? Did you enjoy that? Yes? Well, hey, we're glad that you're here. It's kind of informal. I know you guys are maybe finishing up eating. There's some people kind of tracking in. Hopefully you've had a chance to go to visit the resource table with Doug's resources, intentional parenting, 7 ways to be your hero, how to parent in a technology saturated, a screen saturated world, different ones like that. But there is one hidden resource that we wanted to make sure and bring your attention to. We just have one of them. We've had them one in our PV library. It is called Creative Dating. I think we have that. But better yet, you can stop by the resource and just ask to see what Doug looked like a couple of years ago. If it's, you can pick out which head that is and which one that goes. And if you want to see the rest of the picture, there's the tease. You can visit the resource table out there and go with that. So there it is. There you can see it. Doug there looking very good in the sweater and the collared shirt and the famous stash that he has going on. So hopefully you've enjoyed the content. Get ready. We're going to have Doug come back up, and then after Doug's done, Pastor Murr will wrap everything up. So Doug, why don't you come back and lead us here in the second part of Intentional Parenting.
All right. I'm just glad that you're back. It was great. You guys just finished the only chicken that Jesus would eat. Everybody's happy, awake. We're going to move through this fast. Hopefully you sat in. I sat in a great seminar by a guy named Russ who was talking about parents and media. It was fabulous. You need to get the content if you didn't get it. We talked about the first 5 of these intentional things that we can do. Remember, there are things you have no control over, okay? You do the possible while God does the impossible. And the possible we talked about first was, right, strong belief, consistent presence, not constant presence, but consistent presence, encouraging words that our kids are dying for our words. Our words shape them, give them power, hope. We talked about delicate discipline. You can't love without discipline, but to be thoughtful, yelling doesn't work. And then how to activate responsibility. So here's 6 through 10. 6 through 10. 6 is ongoing affection. Now, gentlemen, I used to call this genuine affection. Genuine affection. But then what I had, a lot of guys are real practical. Like, they want to be good dads. They even want to be good husbands, which is why I wrote a book called 7 Ways to Be Her Hero, the one your wife has been waiting for. Because that's guys, like, just give me the 3 to 4 to 7 ways, and I'll do it. And I wanted to call it, guys, how to get all the sex you'll ever want. But the publisher said, Doug, you can't call it that because women buy books for their husbands to read, and they won't buy that book. So, but guys are like, okay, give me 7 things, and I'll do it. And so when we did this 10, when I called it genuine affection, guys would go home, and they'd be like, hey, kid, come over here. Give them a hug and like, okay, check. What's the next one? So I added ongoing for the men here, okay? Because guys, let's be honest. Women win in a lot of categories when it comes to parenting because they're more nurturing, right? How many of you men would agree that your wife is more nurturing than you? Raise your hand if you're alive. Yeah, absolutely. Because never in the recorded history of the world has a kid ever hurt themselves in the front yard and run in the house yelling for dad. They don't, right? You yell for who? Mom. Why? Because dads don't care. Okay? They don't care. They have a phrase they learned called shake it off. That's what my dad would, who heard that one? Shake it off. Rub some dirt on it. If it's not bleeding, you're fine. Get out of the way of the television. Dad, I can't shake it off. The bone is sticking out, okay? It's a little difficult to shake off. So dads, this is ongoing affection. I can remember one time as a child, this is a little bit of an aside, so stupid, but I remember one time I got sick in the middle of the night and I was throwing up. And I'm telling you, it seems like as soon as in the toilet, I made it to the toilet, but as soon as like the toilet lid hit, it was like my mom had a superpower. Boom, she's there. She's there like, rubbing my back, doing the washcloth, heating the water. She's doing every body. And I thought, where's my dad? And I never knew where he was until I became a dad. And I went, oh, well, he was tired. And so he stayed in bed. So, but this idea of ongoing affection, if you ever studied any form of psychology, when you would get into the emotional psychology, you have heard of something called skin hunger. That hunger must be fed in appropriate ways, or we're going to settle for inappropriate affection. Meaning this: we are all born for this need for our skin to be felt. And here's what's interesting, parents. Watch this. When your kids are little, what do? You hug them, you hold them, you pick them up, you play with them. And then as they get a little bit older, the affection begins to leave. And then they get to middle school. And they are the dorkiest humans on the planet. That you go to hug them and they don't hug back, and they give off everything that they don't want you to touch them, but they actually really do, and they do want it. For those of you with littles, here's the deal with littles. If you start a hugging culture when they're young, they just learn, they grow up going, oh, this is who we are. We are huggers. And even when they get to that age where they don't want to hug you, they don't want to hug you in public, and you just let them know, like, you have to hug me before you leave the house, or I will hunt you down at school. And I will hug you in front of all your friends in all your classes. So you have a choice. And they're like, okay. Well, but, those of you that are a little bit later on this, you start in the game, I just got to tell you, that's why I think every church needs to have a junior high boys wrestling deal. Okay, because junior high boys, they don't know how to express themselves, but they need that physical affection. That's why boys usually, especially if they have a good relationship with their dad, they wrestle a lot. Because they're not the ones like, hey, Dad, I'm a little depressed. Would you give me the emotional support through physical affection that I need? They're not going to say that, right? But they're going to jump off something and get you in a headlock and tackle you or run up. And that is just, you got to pour that on. Now, here's what's interesting. I told you early when I was explaining my family that we adopted these two girls because their parents suck, and there's a long story, but I won't go into it. But one of those girls got married and had a baby. She had an emergency C-section because Farah, who was born at 4 pounds, 4 ounces. Okay, preemie, 12-week preemie, wasn't sure she was going to make it. As mom, Lindsay, is being sewn up, they took baby and immediately put it on dad. They had dad take his. So here's the medical world saying your baby is in trouble, and as soon as they can, they want to put the baby on dad. Isn't that interesting? Okay, now, please don't take a picture of that because Kevin doesn't know that I show this at all. But this is what I mean by skin hunger. Now, dads, even though I make fun of us that we're not as good nurturing, I do want to speak to you dads and say, Dad, I know we all have issues in parenting. See, we tend to parent the way that we were parenting, and at some point we have to break that cycle. Because a lot of guys go, I just didn't have an affectionate father, so I didn't learn that kind of stuff that you're talking about. Okay, Spanky, that's fine. I get it, all right? And that's why you pay for therapy. But at some point, you break the cycle and you have to learn to be that affectionate father. Because dads, if you can't be affectionate with especially with your boys, you're gonna develop boys who I think they're not gonna know how to express themselves emotionally. And girls, Dad, if you're not giving them affection, I guarantee you, they're going to get affection from some other guy. Guarantee it, okay? Because they have to have that skin hunger fed. Usually, promiscuous teenagers typically have emotionally absent or non-affectionate fathers. So I'm sorry if that wasn't your case. We all have our parenting hurdles that we've got to get over. My dad wasn't overly affectionate, but when I learned the power of it, I'm like, okay, Doug, you just have to train yourself to be affectionate. My first year anniversary, when I wanted to be the greatest husband in the world, I remember saying to Kathy, year one, like, what can I do to improve? And because I'm thinking in my mind, nothing. Okay, I pretty much have this thing wired. And she said, "Well, you're not a very good hugger." I'm like, she could see the confusion. Like, well, you're a good hugger when you want it to lead to something. She goes, "But I just would like you to learn to hug me for no reason." And I literally thought, why would I do that? Okay, well, I want to do that. Okay, because that was my hurdle. And so I've had to learn that, what Kathy called it was affection without intention. And I was 22, and I'm like, affection without intention. Again, confusion. Then she said, affection without erection. And I went, oh, okay, now I know what you're talking about. All right, okay, so all that to say, here's my point, is that we all have hurdles. I had to figure that. So with my kids, I've kind of gone overboard with that, just to hug and wrestle and, be affection. I want to encourage you to do that as well. And especially, remember that clip I showed you at the beginning where the boy says, I separate from you, not the other way around. Even when you're kids, you get into that tween teenage when you think they don't want it or need it, they do. That's when you pour it on. So here's the deal with this. If you're not an affectionate person, start somewhere. Okay, just start somewhere with your kids. Like high five, side hug, sit next to them while they're watching TV, whatever. Trip and fall on them if you need to. Start somewhere, okay? Because something is better than nothing. So, ongoing affection. Here's the seventh one, serious fun. Now, the only criticism in the 2 years this book has been published is this one right here. Critics have said, really, you're making a top 10 list for parents, and one of your top 10 is serious fun. And usually, anytime somebody questions me on that, I go, oh, they don't really pay attention. They don't study kids. Because today's generation of young people are more stressed out than any other previous generation. We have more data on today's kids, from their viewing habits to the screen time to all of this stuff. This is a fast-paced, stressed-out generation, and we've got a generation of parents too who are oftentimes trying to live their glory years through their kids. And so they're putting their hopes and dreams for whether it be academics or athletics or the arts or whatever it be, putting that pressure on their kids. We've got kids being recruited to colleges in junior high. We've got people doing prepping SATs in junior high. There's a lot of pressure on today's kids. And so what I say to parents, somewhere in your house, you need to figure out how to have serious fun, and really you need to lighten up. And what I mean by lighten up is that, and especially I think for those of us that are followers of Jesus, we have tremendous reason to be happy, to be joyful. There is not a verse in the scriptures that say, thou shalt laugh. But Jesus went camping with a bunch of dudes for a long time. There was some, Peter said something where Jesus blew goat's milk out of his nose. He was you just know, because the Bible says Jesus was 100% God and 100% human. There was definitely some pull my finger moments. We have reason to laugh as followers of Jesus. And parents, I think we need to lighten up. When my daughter was in elementary school, we went to the school assembly thing where an educator was talking to parents about, how to help your parents learn better and something. And I remember writing this down, and I wish I had this person's name to give her credit, and I don't, so I've now taken credit for it. I've always said it's better for you to encourage your child to watch a funny YouTube video before a big test than to pester him or her with questions about being focused, ready, related, and focused. The best thing you can do for them is send them out the door with a smile on their face and laughter in their heart. They'll perform much better. And so I have this phrase, this is really for people who are preteens and older, what I call the Q-tip principle. The Q-tip principle, it is quit taking it personal. Because when your kids hit preteens, they're moving from concrete thinking. Okay, concrete thinking, that's the Santa Claus is coming down the chimney. Oh, we don't even have a chimney, right? That's the concrete thinking. To what is called abstract thinking. Where abstract thinking means this. They're beginning to think a little more in metaphors, in similes. Wait for it. Sarcasm. Okay? Now, if this is the humor tree right up here, this is the humor tree. The lowest hanging fruit on the humor tree is what? Sarcasm. Okay? It's why junior high is brutal. Because everybody is so sarcastic and cutting and the whole bit. And sometimes they are actually testing that out. So mom, when you're walking in the store and you do one of those trips for no reason, and your 7th grade, you go, you're such a dork, and then you're like, I am not, and you take it all personal, and you're like defensive and yelling and shame. She doesn't know how to express herself. That's sarcasm. Dad, you need to trim your eyebrows. You look like a wolf. Or whatever, like to her, that is the funniest thing ever. And you're like, my eyebrows are not. So this is what I mean by the Q-tip principle. Are you with me on this? And some of you with littles, you don't get this yet, but it's coming your way. You're coming your way. We were on a little Mexico camping trip camping in a resort, all right? Let's put it this way. We were doing 4-wheel drive Segways. Do you know what a Segway is? That's the two-wheeler where you're like lean, you go, and we're outdoors doing this, and we stop at this pond. And my kids get off, and we jump in the pond, do all this thing. And then I am parked right in front of this big rock. And if you've never been on a Segway, it's counterintuitive. Like, to go backwards, you actually have to, I don't know. I haven't been one since this event that I'm about to tell you. You're supposed to go forward. So I try to go backwards to back up, and I actually go forwards, and I hit my shins on this rock. And then it hurts, so I go backwards, and I keep going forward. So I'm just stuck doing this into this rock, okay? And I can't get off it. And as odd as I wish I had video of it, but what I have in the memory is my whole family is on the ground just laughing, and I am bleeding from my shins because I can't manage this Segway. And they thought it was the funny thing, and I was so mad at them for laughing. And it's this principle, okay? Because that is the best humor when people hurt themselves, all right? So to parents, I'm in that same boat, is that you quit taking it so personal. And this is odd, but to have serious fun in your family, you've got to figure out, it's going to sound weird, schedule fun. Schedule fun. Meaning that, we have time for things that are important for us. Because I was a pastor most of my parenting life, I didn't have weekends off. So my day off was Monday. And so in our family, we just called it Monday Fun Day. And when the kids would get home from school, every Monday we had a block of time that we would do something fun. And all 5 of us got to choose. And so sometimes it was the batting cages with Cody. Sometimes it was a tea party under the trampoline with Cassie. Whatever it was, everybody had to participate. And so we had to kind of build in fun. And you may have to figure that out for your own life. And by the way, as your kids get older, they're going to have fun at somebody's house. They're just going to have fun at somebody's house. So you want it to be your house? We wanted it to be our house. And so you got to begin to plan for that. So if you're the anal retentive parent who everybody has to take their shoes off before they go in the house, and then they sit not on the couch, they sit on cellophane that's on the couch, okay, I can tell you it won't be your house, all right? It won't be your house. But I can also tell you what a sound of an empty nest house sounds like, because that 936 weeks is going to end, right? And then you can have as clean a house as you want, okay? It's awesome. We even have a crushed ice maker, and I love it. It's just, it's wonderful. So we do this thing in our house growing up. My kids, we didn't play hide and seek. We play hide and scare. And we did this thing at the church where they did a cutout of me at the church, and so I took the cutout home, and then I would scare the kids with the cutout. And so I'd hide it in a different place, like in the shower. I'd put them to bed, and then in the middle of the night, I'd sneak in and I'd set it at the end of their bed. And I did this for their friends. Like, if you were coming to the Fields house, you're going to get scared. And even as we bought the house, I'm thinking of all the different places I could hide. Like, as we were walking through open houses, I'm like, this house won't work. They go to the next one. Even my mom, like 2 weeks before she died, we were jumping out of closets, scaring her. And that's just who we are as people. Then all of a sudden, the Doug doll didn't work. So I was at a garage sale, and I found Mr. T. So I bought Mr. T because I pity the fool who's not going to be scared by Mr. T. So my point in all of this is we tried to create some fun in our house so that it was a house that our kids wanted to be at. This is my kids when they were little. And we were at a wedding. And anytime we would take a picture, we would always do a crazy face picture. I have thousands of these pictures. My wife was a little caught off guard. She's actually the least funny of the five of us, but she's definitely the nicest. And really, if she was a speaker, she would be teaching this. She's not. She'd rather die than speak, but she's the best mom in the world. I tell people all the time, if parenting were a high school thing, she'd be the valedictorian, and I'd be the guy in the gymnasium trying to burp the alphabet. So most of the parenting stuff I'm teaching from her. It's her content. But this is what every picture would look like. Then a few years back for Christmas, they're in their 20s now. They want to get us a picture for Christmas, and then this is what they give us. Okay, so it continues. But I will tell you, it's a value in their lives because we made it a value in our families. We played this game where you go to Chili's and you get the little cardboard coaster for a drink. You know what I'm talking about? So we just made up this game called Coaster Catch. And you fling it across the table and you have to catch it in your mouth. And it sounds easier than it is. It's very difficult. So every time we would go to a restaurant with this, we'd play Coaster Catch. And, it would get out of control every once in a while. People would be hit in the back of the head. But when my oldest, first time we went out to dinner with the guy that she was dating, who she's now eventually married, who's given us a grandchild, she's like, "Dad, see how good he is." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "See if he can catch a coaster." I'm like, "Oh, yes, I will." And I was like, boom. I mean, I was just really going after him. Several paper cuts on his face. But so serious fun. All right, here's the eighth. I think all kids, you are a coach, a parent, a teacher, a mentor, all kids need positive memories. Now, no family's perfect. You're going to have bad memories. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get angry. You're going to yell. You're going to say terrible things. That's part of it, okay? We're all making, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. Every parent looks better on Instagram. Every parent looks better from a distance. But what if you grew up in a house where there were more positive memories than negative memories? I was actually talking to somebody at break about a first memory I have with my mom was taking me to a nursing home. And she planted in me this idea of compassion and service. My mom was a seamstress, and my dad was an accountant, which doesn't mean much to you, but that combination is a mild form of child abuse, okay? Because I would like, especially when I became a teenager, I wanted fashion, I wanted clothes. I wanted like OP shorts. Anybody ever heard of OP shorts? OP shorts were like the short. Every kid had these OP shorts. OP stood for Ocean Pacific. It was the label. It was the hot thing. But they were $28 shorts, okay, in the early 70s. My dad, the accountant, a $28 pair of shorts would be like $100 today. My dad, the accountant, says, "No, we're not paying $28 for a pair of shorts." My mom, the seamstress, said what? "I can make them," which describes pretty much every outfit I went to school in and why I got beat up a lot as a middle schooler. And so my mom makes this pair of shorts that is identical to OP shorts, except there was no OP, which is exactly why you want it. You're the label. You're a kid. Everybody wanted the label. I'm like, "Mom, I won't wear these." And I was a punk, but I wasn't going to wear shorts that kind of look like OP. People would be going like, "Where's the OP?" And I'm like, "Oh, my mom's a seamstress and my dad won't buy it." You don't do that. So I'm like, I just won't wear those shorts. So my mom makes me a pair of shorts. She takes the shorts, and from the front row, you would go, "Oh, he's wearing OP shorts." But if you get up close, it wasn't a capital O, it was a capital D. Oh, yeah, she was afraid of the infringement police who were going to arrest her son, And my dad's like, "Yeah, they're perfect. You just tell people when they ask, just say it's not OP, it's DP for Doug's pants." Like, "Oh, yeah, Dad, I'll get right on that one. That's good. That's good." But memories actually make up the foundation of who we are. So, I still remember learning to ride a bike, and my dad helped me learn to ride a bike, and my mom was a larger woman, and so when my mom would clap, her under bicep was the greatest. Like, I wanted to slow-mo put it to music. It was just like when she would clap, these things would just be like dancing, under her arms. And I still have that vision of like her being there, which, in the 60s and 70s, there was no seatbelt. So when my mom would do one of these, you had it was like an airbag hitting you. It was awesome, okay? But I have those memories. I have vacation memories driving through Mississippi and literally saying, as I was not a bright kid, but I remember saying, oh, Mississippi, when are we going to drive through Mr.Sippi? And I totally sincere. And my mom and dad thought that was so funny. They laughed so hard at that the dog in the back seat with me and my sister starts barking. And my mom gives it a mint, and it chokes and throws up on my sister. Okay, I have this great memory of that, okay? But really, the memories make up the foundation of who we are. And so as parents, the question becomes, what kind of memories are they going to have of you? Was mom a nag? Or was mom playful? Was dad never present? Or was dad, passionate about life? Were parents that always said no, or parents who, said no occasionally but said yes a lot? Did my parents like each other? Did they love each other? Did they yell a lot? Did they laugh a lot? Those are going to be the memories. Even for those of you that are grandparents, are you grandma the grouch and grandpa the grump? Are you like the yes grandparent? I actually believe this. Your kids would rather be in an old school Volkswagen van headed toward an adventure than have a Mercedes that stays parked in the driveway. I just think, that's what kids need. So just some practical ideas. Parents, make up traditions. Just make up traditions. Last day of school, this is what we do. First day of school, this is what we do. 4th of July, this is what we do. Christmas, if you don't already have them, make them up. Flag Day. Okay, stupid ones. Hamburger, Flag Day. I woke up my kids wearing a flag. Okay, that was it, just a flag. And my wife said we have to stop that tradition. But the next year I actually put on pajamas. But whatever it is, just make up those traditions because that's what they're going to remember. They just add flavor, and so make them up if you don't have them. Another idea is capture memories. My generation of parenting, my kids made it about into middle school before we had digital cameras. Maybe late elementary school. So, the first part is all like film, whatever they're called, prints. Now you have no reason. You capture everything on this. There should be no reason. And by the way, when your kids are little, here's the thing. When you go on a vacation, let them take pictures. Because they're going to take, I tell you, we were in Panama City one time. I was speaking, and Panama City's like the redneck Riviera type thing, and it's gross to me. But we were speaking there, and there's a cockroach in our hotel, and that's what my son was so fascinated. He was like 50 pictures of this cockroach in the motel on print. That's expensive. Digital, you just delete. But back in the day, you had to pay for that. We got a zoom lens. He thought men in Speedos was the funniest thing. And so we have so many. And so when he was, I did two things. This is not even in my notes. I'm just going, I'm sorry. This is post Chick-fil-A. When he got married, so when my son was circumcised, they circumcised you, and then they put a little plastic cap on there. Do they still do that? Okay. So that little plastic cap couldn't even fit on my pinky. And I thought, this would be funny to give to his wife someday. I didn't think I'd keep it, but I did. I put it in a little ring box, and I just put it away. And we moved 2 years ago, and I found it. And he got married like last year, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to give this to his wife. And she did not get the humor or appreciate that was a 25-year-old joke. She didn't get that. But I did give him all the pictures. I just stacked all the pictures that he had taken of cockroaches and men in Speedos and just different things from vacations as like, buddy, And we just walked through them and relived some of those memories. I mean, that's what I'm talking about parenting. You have the opportunity to be a memory maker. And I would also say this, prioritize vacations. Prioritize vacations, okay? I learned this from a Jewish carpenter. And some of you are thinking, Jesus? No, there's nothing in the Bible on prioritizing vacations. His name was Dave Adelson. He was a neighbor. He was a Jewish carpenter. And he told me, he said, Doug, there is never a good time to take a vacation. And he says, you know, I have to shut down my business. I lose money. I don't like doing either of those. But I have just learned, he was older than me. And I thought, that makes sense, because there is never a good time, but to prioritize it. Anybody that does family research, you just look into what creates the greatest memories, it's vacations. And learn from me, it's not the expensive vacations. So we saved up and took our family to Hawaii when they were little. Now in their 20s, here's what my son said. Oh, you know what I remember about that trip is that we bought fireworks at Walmart and we let them off in the parking lot. Because where I live in Southern California, when you hear about forest fires, that's where I live. So there's no such thing as fireworks in the street. We don't do that. It's only public. So my kids grew up without fireworks in the front yard. So my son thought that was so cool to have fireworks in a parking lot. Now I'm thinking, I could have done that in like Fresno. You know, I could have driven like 2 hours and done that in the armpit of California. I didn't have to go to Hawaii to do that. So when they're little, Europe is wasted on them, okay? You don't just go to some place that has fireworks, is basically what I'm saying. Adventures, especially if you have boys, parents, if you have boys, create adventures. Grunion hunting, you Google that. Service projects, anything that involves a mystery or danger or automatic weapons, that kind of stuff. When my son graduated high school, I had some of his buddies that I hadn't seen in years. Because 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, we did a golf ball hunting party. And a golf ball hunting party is, I have a friend who lives on a golf course. You go at night, you dress in camouflage. We put face paint on, the whole bit, camo gear. And you have a pillowcase and a flashlight. And you go into bushes and you shine your flashlight. And when it's dark out, you shine your flashlight into the bush. And the golf ball reflects off the flashlight. And it's like this Easter egg hunt. And it was a blast. We did it 3 years in a row until we found out it's illegal. And then we had to stop. Didn't know that. So now, fast forward 6 years at a high school graduation, some of these boys I hadn't seen in years, they'd come, Mr. Fields, remember that time when we did the golf ball? With boys, any type of adventure, dress up, danger, intrigue is fabulous. With my daughters, I realized that pretty much any time I spend money on them seemed to work. But memories. Now, this is one of the cases of books that did not make it in the storm, but I have it here anyway. Me and a buddy put together, he's a graphic artist, and we wrote this little book called This. And I love this because this is for you to pass on to your kids. There's 52 questions, things that make me proud, things I believe about music, things I believe about God. These are tastes that you should experience. And it's just you kind of unpacking some of this is me to you. So it's really kind of a long-term journal. You could do it, you could start, I gave it to my daughter who could start with our granddaughter Ivy. You could start your kid's junior year in high school and take a couple years to write it out. I mean, it's basically, this is what I want you to know about me. Okay? And it's just another way to instill memories. The books didn't come, but you could find it on Amazon. Okay, 2 more. What I think all kids need is role models. And we were just talking about this at lunch with Brad. I actually, this is why I gear this for teachers and mentors and coaches and the whole bit, because if you, as a parent, you are the most influential person in the life of your child. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, extended family, second most. But it takes a village to surround kids. That's why I'm a big fan of the church, if you can't tell already. I think raising your kids in the church where there's Sunday school teachers and small group leaders and other people who have a similar faith, they're not perfect, but they have similar faith and value to you to surround your kids. I actually believe if you are a Christian and you call the church home, anytime you see young people out in the lobby and stuff like that, you ought to high five them and hug them and give them money, whatever when kids show up here, they ought to go, those are the coolest people in the world, okay? Because that's what the church is. Now, when you study kids, you find that kids, whether they come from a wealthy home, whether they come from a Cambodian refugee camp, whether they come from an inner city single parent situation, whatever it is, you figured out the ones that succeed have other adults in their lives. They just have other adults in their life. And for us, when people would ask about our kids, I'd go, you know what the secret is? The secret is we raised our kids in the church. I was a youth pastor. We had volunteers, high school, junior high ministry volunteers who were in our house all the time. And my kids saw some of the coolest people in the church. And those people, when I was traveling, they would go to my kids' game if I couldn't be there. They would help us in our parenting. They babysit. My kids just grew up around all these amazing other adults. And you have to be intentional about making that happen. For some of you, like to even date one another, just to trade families. Say, hey, we're going to drop our kids off at your house for 2 hours on a Wednesday. You drop your kids at our house for 2 hours on a Thursday. We'll go out on a date. You guys go out on a date. And all of a sudden, my kids are growing up, your kids are growing up around these other adults who actually love them and care for them and want to be around them. That is super important. So where it becomes intentional is you actually have to go find those people. I mean, that's the beauty of like a godparent. I mean, it's a goofy tradition to say, will you be the godparent? Well, once you anoint somebody that and appoint them in some ways, they become invested in that child. And so what I'm suggesting is that if there are not naturally other adults in the life of your child, that's how you become intentional and say, hey, we would love for you to breathe life into our child. We'd love for you to encourage them. Hey, there's a big event happening. We're doing a backyard baptism or whatever it is. This is a big game. We're going to have his friends show up to it. That's where you as a parent have to be intentional. And by the way, this goes without saying, but in terms of the number one role model, it's you. It's you. They're watching everything. They're watching it. I remember just this moment I had in my life. My son, when he was little, he was the performer of, it's funny because he's now the most introverted of our three, but he was a little bit of the performer when he was little. And when I'd be at church talking to somebody in the lobby or something like, Dad, watch this. He was really into watch this. And he would do something like, and I'd be like, oh, that's good, buddy, that's good. Dad, Dad, watch this. All right, pal, I just saw that. Come up with something different, okay? And it'd be, Dad, what? Whatever it was, he's like I said, he's cute, not bright, but there was a point where I thought, you know what? He doesn't say watch this anymore, but he's watching me. He's watching how I talk about people that we drive past. He's talking about how I respond to needy people. He's watching how I treat his mom. He is I'm under surveillance as his dad, as a role model, 24/7. And so I can't just bring him to church and expect the church to do the faith thing because he's watching my faith. He's watching how I live at home. So just so that you know that, you're one, bookends here. You are the most significant person in the life of your child, but your child is watching you 24/7. And by the way, not that you have to be perfect at all. Not that you have to be perfect at all. You just have to be honest. And when you yell and you lose it or whatever you do, then you go back and you apologize. Your kids are not expecting a perfect parent. Don't live under that illusion. But they are watching you all the time. And if they never see you apologize to them or admit your failures to them, don't expect them to do that to you, okay? Because you've modeled that. Now finally, I think what all kids need, and I put this at the end because I think this is a strategic way to end, is I think all kids need a peaceful home. It doesn't need to be a perfect home. Please hear that. It doesn't need to be a perfect home, but kids are in a battle all day long. They're in a battle at school with bullies. They're in a battle of appearance with social media. They're in a battle. They are constantly being compared and criticized. And when they come home, that home should be a peaceful home. It doesn't mean quiet. It just means peaceful, okay, where they can feel safe. My mom used to call our house, she grew up in Brooklyn, and so she said, man, your house is like Grand Central Station, which didn't mean anything to me until I saw Grand Central Station. When I finally saw it, there's people just everywhere going in different tunnels to catch the trains a little bit. And, you know, we had sometimes when they were teenagers, we trusted them, and we wanted to create a home that they would feel safe to bring their friends to. And so we bought a extra refrigerator at a garage sale and put it in the garage. We filled it with the cheapest Costco. Do you guys have Costco here? Sam's Club, whatever. Hamburgers, hot dogs. So it was always filled with crappy food. Okay, it was just always filled. And we told them, you can invite people over at any time. Because we knew when they were teenagers, they're going to be at somebody's house, might as well be ours. And so we would have people all the time. I can remember one time, Kathy and I coming back from a date, our kids were teenagers, and I see this one kid, Jason. He's in our living room, and he's looking at some milk. I didn't even know we had milk in our house, but milk was spilt on this carpet. And he's looking like this, and I walk by, I'm like, Jason, what are you doing? It's like, Mr. Fields, tilt your head this way and look at that. Doesn't that look like the face of Jesus? At first, if it wasn't this kid, I thought, he's stoned, but I knew this kid. And I said, Jason, it kind of does, but Mrs. Fields is coming. And you're going to meet Jesus soon if you don't, clean that up. So, like, our house was always kind of crazy. But Kathy and I had this image, and here's the image I want to give you. That our kids would come home from school in chaos, battling all day, battling for survival, battling for position, battling in grades, battling in sports, just battling. That they would come home, shut the door, sigh of relief, and like the image was they would just slide down the door and sit like, I'm at home. Now, they never literally did that I can recall, but that's the environment that I'm trying to get you to see. Does that make sense? So what do I mean by a peaceful home? I mean discipline that doesn't include yelling. Boundaries, but not a lot of rules. Welcoming to their friends. Encouraging words and affection. Parents, if you're married, who express love to one another because that creates peace in your house. A freedom of comparison from other siblings. You're not trying to be like other people. A place where kids can be themselves and don't pretend. And really a home where your kids' friends want to hang out. Okay? Because you want them there rather than somebody else's house, in my opinion. Okay? And then, ultimately, if you're going to have a peaceful home, you got to have peace yourself. That really, at the end of the day, friends, I don't think you can have a peaceful home unless you have a peaceful heart. And peace really means the absence of war. And because of what Jesus did on the cross for us and paying for our sins, I don't have to be at war with God. He's already paid the price of that war with his blood on the cross and sacrificing for me. So because of my relationship with God through Jesus' act on the cross, I can have peace with him. Now, if you're outside of the faith, thrilled you're here, I actually would even encourage you to come back tonight or tomorrow. I know your little JV team, the Chiefs, they play. They play tomorrow afternoon, so there's 3 services to choose from. Maybe you have some friends that have never been to church. This would be, I'm just talking about the importance of marriage for you and for the next generation. And I promise, if you invite somebody that's never been to church before, they will go, oh, that was cool. I learned something. I laughed. I had fun. I promise you that. But, I realize I I don't like to assume that everybody has a faith, but I do know that my faith as a follower of Jesus helps me understand the source of peace and that I can have peace. Not a perfect world. He never promised a perfect world, but he did promise peace. And if you want a peaceful home, you have to have a peaceful heart. Now, here's the last thing that I'll say. And if you want to follow up with some stuff, the intentional parenting that's here this weekend, this is a workbook. And I was telling Brad this last night. I don't really care whether you buy my stuff or not. I didn't even ship that many. I don't write books for them to stay in my garage. So I do, I write them for a purpose, but I don't ever want to be salesy. And this workbook is taking the stuff that we talked about deeper. It's for discussion. Gentlemen, I'm not trying to sell more books. I'm just saying that if you want to in your family, if you don't want to get one for you guys, then I will give you permission, nobody else, but just Pleasant Valley, I will give you permission. You could photocopy for your family, because what guys do is they're like, oh yeah, we bought one, because she'll fill it out. She'll do all the work, and then we abdicate that to our wives, because I know that sometimes us guys, we don't love to like read and think and write and stuff like that. And that's why I try to present in a male-friendly way, where I feel like if I got the guy, that's my win today. But I do think, that this isn't something you just, hey, fill it out, dear, and let me know what I'm supposed to do. I'd encourage you to be a little bit more involved in that. And this is pretty easy. It's the 10 things that we talked about. If it's helpful for you, great. Here's my closing thought, and then Pastor will come up and close this out, is that something is always better than nothing. Something. Because now some of you are like, Doug, you gave us a lot of stuff. And, you're going to have this conversation like, you know what? If we really want to be good parents, we should probably put our kids up for adoption. Okay, like I don't think we're doing this right. I mean, there is just so much to be concerned about, and no, you're fine. But here's what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't go home tonight and gather your kids in the living room and say, okay, kids, here's the deal. Daddy's not going to yell anymore. Neither is mom. We're going to have discipline, but not a lot of rules. I'm gonna hug everybody. Okay. We stop by the place to get a photo. I'm going to get a mannequin and scare you all with a life-size photo of me. No, don't do that. Because here's what they're going to do. They're going to go, oh, yeah, you went to a seminar. Yeah, let's see how long that lasts. Okay. Here's my suggestion. Just review your notes. Look at the ones and go, we're doing this good, we're doing this good, we're doing this, we're doing this. This is a B-, this is a C+. I could probably be more encouraging with my words, whatever it is. And then just start somewhere, okay? Start somewhere, because something is always better than nothing. So review the material. I know that they're going to start here soon. Brad, when are you starting the small groups? In October, they're doing intentional parenting small groups. I told them that this is all over this workbook in small groups is all over the country, that I tell people, take a small group, sit in one, and then after you've sat. I'm running out of words, folks, okay? After you've sat in a group for 6 weeks, then lead one, because you're actually going to learn more. So just review the content. If you go online, intentionalparenting.com, you can get the videos. They're short little 7-minute humor videos. So we talk about in 7 minutes, I present this material in funny ways. And then if you want to, after you go through the material, there's another maybe 7 or 10-minute video of me and Kathy sitting at our kitchen table, and we just talk about each of these. And you hear from Kathy's point of view as well. And so that's all available on the video. There's the information in the book on that, on how to get that, and the videos are part of the book. Pastor, I'm done. Close this out.
Wasn't that good? That was fantastic, Doug. Thank you very much. I just think about how better my children would be had I had that kind of information. And so they're so screwed up now, I don't know what I can do about that. So I'm going to send them to you, all right, as adults. I was thinking about what Doug was talking about. Proverbs 24, 3 and 5 says this: a house is built by wisdom and becomes strong through good sense. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. We've just been given all kinds of very practical wisdom to help us fill our houses with all kinds of riches and treasures. And it is such a gift that we have to have children. And as Brad started off, you got this. And we as a church are here to support you in any way that we can. We love you and we love kids, and we're going to provide tools for you to help you parent them well. And make sure you avail yourself to all of the information that's in the booklet about small groups that are going to be happening. We've even, for those of you who plan way in advance, we've given you great things that are going to be happening this year and next year that you want to put on your calendar to make some memories with your family. So that's our way as a church of partnering with you. And I do hope that you'll come back either tonight or tomorrow if you know the Mahomes factor is happening, and so that's the reason we have Saturday night services and 9:15 services as well. So why don't we stand together? Let me pray over you and that we will be done. Would you join me in thanking a great team that put this on, our staff and volunteers. Thank you guys for another great event. You have a staff that is really passionate to help you in every way possible, so we want to serve you. So let's pray. God, I thank you that you've created us with a desire to live in relationship, and that ultimate relationship is a relationship with you. You call our hearts to come back home to you, and you've made the way available for us. Jesus is our way. He is truth. He is life. And my prayer is that, as Doug talked about, individuals will step towards you and experience peace that is a deep, abiding, life-changing kind of peace that only can happen as we are in that faith relationship with you. I pray for all the parents. I know many are here and they are probably, even in the midst of hearing all of this practical information, beating themselves up, having bad self-talk about where they failed. I pray that you would just give them grace and encouragement. God, would you remind all parents that children are amazingly resilient, and that you give all of us a second chance to do the next right thing. And I am praying that the things that we've been taught today, both from Doug and from all the breakouts, God, that you would help us to apply in practical ways, and that we will experience the fruit of what it's like to actually live in step with you and put into practice great biblical principles, not just for our children, but for the generations to come. And I pray this in the name of Jesus. And everybody said, amen. God bless you. Have a great day.